We just got breaking news that Ripple is going to be raising more than $500 million from some of the giants of the traditional investment world. But guys, this has not come without its controversy, and a lot of people are pointing to the valuation Ripple is raising at and asking some serious questions on what is going on with their XRP holdings. Well, in this video, I want to break down a brand new article that was just put out about this, really calling into question how much money Ripple is actually worth. Let's start out this video and address the fact that Ripple is raising $500 million. And guys, this is not $500 million raised from just anyone. They actually had Citadel, one of the largest financial giants, in this raise. So Ripple is clearly gaining the attention of the financial elite in the traditional financial system. Now, despite this, there has been a lot of FUD put out about this raise, and it's one of those things that is always going to come with everything Ripple does. And just so you guys are aware, this is not unique. I was an investor in the early days for Tesla, the early days of Nvidia, the early days of Palantir. This is not uncommon, and in fact, honestly, something I really, really like to see. For whatever reason, whenever you have an investment like XRP, an investment like Tesla, not only is there this huge community of people who really see it and really get it and really see the value proposition, but for some reason, these game-changing, transformational investments always attract haters. Now, I don't know why that's the case, but honestly, it's something I kind of like because it's been a consistent track record with almost every investment that I've made a ton of money on. So I say welcome it. I like to see it. And I say this just checks off another box for showing that this is going to be another hyper successful investment. With that said, though, let's jump into the FUD and see what we're seeing in terms of why people are pointing to this as a bad thing. And there's some really interesting things we're going to cover at the end of the video, really jumping into some facts that I don't think a lot of people know in terms of what Ripple does with their escrow. So you're definitely going to want to make sure you stick around for that. Let's take a look at the article, though. This was actually from Laura Shin. Now, if you know Laura Shin, you would know that essentially she is an OG in the cryptocurrency industry, but has really fallen off extremely hard. She runs this podcast that no one watches, and her new way of essentially generating clicks and views is to simply FUD Ripple and XRP. So I don't know why she went down this path. I think it's failed crypto journalism, and this is where she's ended up. But essentially, she put out this article saying Ripple, the company, is not worth anything outside of its XRP holdings. No one is using their tech, no usage on the blockchain/network. So let's start off and jump into this core headline statement that she put out there. First of all, this is the complete opposite of the narrative that we consistently hear from people like her who say, oh, I understand Ripple, the company, what Ripple's doing is super valuable, but XRP is worthless. Now this is the complete flip side of the argument saying, oh, well, the company's not worth anything, but the XRP is worth $40 billion. So it's a total joke. They'll just make up whatever argument they want at that given time and say, okay, this is what we're going with. It's the same exact thing with XRP being a bank coin. When I first got into XRP, it was all this FUD. It's a banker's coin. It's helping the traditional bankers. They're in bed with all these banks. And then suddenly banks are looked at as a good thing. And the new narrative was, oh, well, Ripple's not landing any banks. They just pivot to whatever argument is going to make sense at the time. There's never any facts or reason or proof they could point to. And we're going to dissect that in detail when we take a look at this. But the first statement outside of that just real doozy of an opener is the fact that they're essentially, or she's essentially pointing out down here, that the company owns XRP worth $80 billion. So why is the market valuating it at $40 billion? She's saying, and I know this is a little bit more of a nuanced question that a lot of people might want to know the answer to. She's essentially asking the question, if Ripple holds all this XRP worth $80 billion, why are they only being valued at $40 billion in this raise? And that's actually a pretty good question. Now, from a cryptocurrency journalist, right? I talk about this all the time on the channel. If I was a cryptocurrency journalist, I would not be asking that question because in my opinion, you should probably know the answer to that if you're a cryptocurrency journalist. But let's just say someone else is asking the question. It's a really good question. And there's really two answers to this. One is the more obvious answer in my opinion. And that's the fact that XRP is not liquid. It's sitting in escrow. How much money would you pay for an XRP that you can't sell for 10 years? Well, my answer would be, well, I'm not going to pay the current price of it, right? I have to get some kind of discount on that XRP. If you're giving me an asset with the clause that I can't sell it for 10 years, I'm not going to give you full value for it because I would just buy the asset if I was going to be paying full value. Why would I accept the fact that I can't sell it for 10 years? So automatically, just based off of the lack of liquidity in Ripple's escrow, it has to have a discounted value associated with it. That's just common sense. That's how these things work. I mean, you're not going to pay full price for Ripple's escrow of XRP when most of that XRP can't be released. It just doesn't make any sense. So that's the first thing that's really easy to understand. If Ripple has $80 billion worth of XRP, you're not going to pay $80 billion for that XRP. You might value that XRP at half, right? 40 billion. Let's just throw it at a random number. There's no equation you can use. You can't point to X, Y, and Z and say, this is why we're doing it. It's totally random. It's an arbitrary made up number of these things that have never been done before. Everyone knows you have to discount it by some amount, but no one knows how much you're really discounting it by, except the people who went into the deal. Those people said, okay, we're willing to pay 30 billion, 10 billion, 25 billion for the XRP Ripple owns in the escrow. But there's another key term in there that has to be understood. The XRP Ripple owns in the escrow. It has been widely reported, and once again, something you would expect a cryptocurrency journalist to know, that Ripple doesn't own all the XRP in the escrow. A lot of different companies and entities that we have seen public proof of have stated that they have an option contract on the escrow. So they actually own part of that escrow. So let me give this, for example. If Ripple has 80 billion in the escrow, right? And let's say 20 billion is already allocated to other companies / individuals, well, then whatever company is raising money for Ripple is not going to give Ripple a valuation for XRP not owned by Ripple. So clearly there's another discount to be had there on that XRP holding.